grab my phone, check something real quick. Okay. Let's see, it is showing. Oh, there's Ren right there. All right. So we are live. All right, welcome everyone to episode 830 of the Black Brain Trust. This is Black Fatherhood Talk. Father figure. And as per usual, this is a co-host type of thing. So today it is myself, Johnny Blaze, and Renaissance Man. How are you gentlemen doing today?
Doing great.
Hey, what's up, Johnny Blaze? It's been a while, brother.
Hey, Renaissance, same here.
Yeah. What's up, Complex?
Good, man. How's the sound? Oh, you know what, dude? Before I forget to do this shit. Hold on a second. Gratuities, right? You gotta welcome everyone, right? Everyone. So we're gonna do that, right? And we're gonna post that there, so we can, do the gratuities, right? And press if sound and is okay. All right, and as people make their way in, if they can press that number right there to signify to me that all the sound is coming in okay, all the levels are good. How does it sound to you guys?
It's good on this end. It's not too loud, not too low.
Okay, and Renaissance?
Yeah. I think it's pretty good.
Okay, all right, cool deal. All right, so for we it's been a minute, JB, since we've done one of these.
Yes, sir.
Right, but in talking with Renaissance Man over the past couple weeks, he wanted to get this back up and going. I wholeheartedly agreed with him, and you and I, JB, had spoke a few weeks back about getting it going as well, and we've got confirmation. Appreciate you, Ali. Renaissance Man had an interesting angle today to talk about, right? Father figures. Now, Ren, I'm gonna just kind of give my take on our conversation, and then if you want to kind of more or less elaborate, and JB, you jump in with all this, because this was a topic that Renaissance Man brought up, right? So you have us, say like JB, you and I, we're fathers. And, I would say our situations are relatively unique at that as well, right? But we are men with children, right? Specifically daughters, right? But what about, say, the men who play a father figure but don't have any kids, right? And Ren, if you want to correct me on this, or if you want to elaborate further, that was pretty much the angle you were taking, correct?
Yeah, because what started to come to mind to me is I'm 33, but I don't have any kids. But I'm at the age where some of my friends I went to college with, professional friends, they started having kids. So some of that starts to come into your mind, just talking to them and, seeing some of the things that they're thinking about, whether it be, schooling for their kids or, how they're going to lay their family situation out, things like that. But then coupled with, I was thinking that it kind of took me to, hey, Black fatherhood, because there's also, I caught up with an old coworker I'm really good friends with. We text a lot, but he was here in the DC area a few weeks ago. And he was actually, seeing a girl who, in this space, a dreaded single mother, manosphere.
the talking point, right?
Yeah. He was seeing one, but he was saying, he's gotten really close to her son, who's around like 2 years old, and he was just telling me some of the things that that he didn't think she was doing well, that he had to sort of step in to say, hey, you should be doing this, making sure he's getting these things. So and I mean he enjoyed it. I mean, to be honest with you, he was kind of like, I enjoy spending more time with him than I do with her. So
damn.
Yeah. But so we'll see where that goes. But it just kind of got me thinking of, I'm starting to see, more men in my circle, playing a role. And then for myself, I sort of always look back at, I have most of my cousins are my age, but I do have some that are a lot younger than me. Mm-hmm. So like just trying to, as they're starting to get a little bit older, whether it be like they're trying to, like, whether they're teenagers or one is, I think, one just turned 17. So getting close to like looking at college and just sort of thinking back through, hey, what kind of advice can I give as, a bigger cousin? I'm not an uncle, but I know I had friends who become uncles as well too. So it just kind of got me thinking that, hell, you have the Black fatherhood talk, but there are a lot of Black men, and this has kind of been my critique of the manosphere and other places, is that that Black men, even if there is not necessarily a father there are lots of uncles, grandfathers, big cousins, big brothers who play those roles, who pass on that vital information.
Right.
So when I thought about that, I was like, oh, we haven't done a fatherhood talk in a while. So I thought, it just might be good to, reach out to you and see if that was something worth, discussing again, just because, I think it's valuable, especially with all the conversation of, the care of Black boys that we hear in the space.
Right.
There's multiple ways you can do that. And there's multiple Black boys in your life you can play, you can provide guidance to.
I agree, and I appreciate the reach out, because this is a really good topic. JB, what you got on it, bro?
I mean, I'm in here just like taking notes, and the first two things that kind of came to my mind as I'm listening to this is I'm thinking mentorship and planning. As a father, those are two things that I have to do with my daughters. Think about definitely planning. That's probably like my biggest concern. Kind of planning out her life. If I'm not around, because like I said, Complex and we have a unique situation where we're both fathers of daughters. We're also widows, so we have to think long term. But if let's say you don't have children, you're in that role. I do have nephews and I have nieces, and me and my nephews talk quite a bit about a lot of things. So in that regard, I'm more like a mentor. And I mean, both my nephews, they're adults, but I do try to give them, fatherly advice. They both have fathers. I know their fathers, but my job is to be like that second or third ear.
There was a couple of points here, right, that kind of, and just real quick, let me see here. Ironic, because I just did a stream debunking those CDC Black fatherhood stats. I had one bulletproof critique of the whole thing. Not sure what that is referencing specifically. You can, if you want to elaborate, conservative. So just going back to the points that Ren had in this text, let me pull this up. So, JB, you were just talking about, like, and I was prefacing this early on, right? So you and I, we're Black men with not only a child, but daughter specifically, and we're both widowed. Like, we are literally in a niche category. Right?
Yeah.
But that does put us in the Black men with children, right? See, so there is an experience space that we can speak from, given that these are our own offspring, right? But then what Renaissance had also mentioned was that, like, okay, like he was just kind of talking about here, right? Let's say brothers who are uncles, have little cousins, you're a godparent, you're a coach, right? Like there's these roles where these social roles where it's not your kid, but you have to care for them as if it was yours. Am I getting it right, Renaissance?
Yeah. Or you don't even have to care necessarily. Like, maybe there could be an instance like where you may be given like primary care, but I'm just thinking of, it could just be an instance.
Or is it guidance? Not care, guidance.
Yeah, guidance.
Guidance. Okay, not care, guidance.
Like this is, and I don't know if you know, but I mean, most of your people who've heard me speak, they know that I teach at a university. So I deal with, folks coming directly out of high school and so forth. And so a lot of times my students are kind of like my kids. I call myself the de facto dad at work. Yeah. So outside of just dealing with the class material, I also I ask them questions about their day-to-day lives. How are you surviving? You know, 'cause sometimes, you know, a lot of times going from childhood into early adulthood, it's a struggle for a lot of people. You know, even I think back to when I was that age. You know, I'm 50 now, but I got married at 22, and I can tell you, I didn't have a whole lot of experience at these things.
Right, right. Like what you know now versus what you knew then, right?
Yeah. But you know, that made me think back to the mentors and people that kind of helped me. I had my uncle; he was always there for me, to talk. You know, going through things. Now, me and my dad didn't have the best relationship, but we did have something. So we did talk from time to time about a few things. So I guess I see it as a father, or as even just as a mentor or coach, is to try to help those younger than myself. And you know, and I try to use a lot of my own life experiences, both good and bad, to tell them the things I did right, but also say, hey, these are the things I did wrong. These are the things why I did these things wrong, and I hope not to repeat them. And if you're really wise, you'll learn from my mistakes, so you won't repeat them.
You know, and I want to get Renaissance man his take on this, right? Because I was just kind of thinking about, I said care, but then I was like, no, actually it's guidance, right? And oftentimes like in the social media spaces and stuff, they always talked about, it's always reduced down to protection and provision, right? That's usually what the term is, but you never hear guidance, right? Because I think that's actually what it is, that people are really actually seeking proper guidance, right? They need to know how to navigate the world, given all the bullshit. You know what I mean? And that's really truly what it is that they seek, and that's where I'm kind of like, okay, why? And these sort of like ancillary roles outside of you having an actual child yourself, sometimes it's called upon you to provide that guidance, right? And that is a fatherly aspect. That's a fatherly task, right? And I think there's a lot of brothers who don't have children but find themselves doing that.
Well, you
And
know,
then
complex.
yeah.
When you say the word guidance, what it makes me think of is the word trajectory. So
Mhm.
that means our life is kind of, is set on a course.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really as that mentor, that cultural, that kind of Renaissance is talking about. And we're going to kind of help keep them hopefully on course so they don't diverge too far off.
Well, isn't that what you do in your job, what you were just talking about?
Yeah, that's
You
basically
were
it.
just what did you say just a minute ago? You were like, you have to what did you say?
I'm like what the de facto dad of
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Like think about Renaissance. You'll get a kick out of this one. You give me your take. What about like Deion Sanders and the effect that he's having?
Oh man,
Go
nah,
ahead. You got it. Go ahead, dude.
no. I mean, there's a clip out there of Travis Hunter. I think it's at like before like maybe one of the big games at JSU where he's literally crying at one point
Mhm.
before the game because he's just saying he's thanking Dion for all he's done, all the guidance and things that he's provided to him. I don't know what his situation growing up was like, but Dion literally refers to him as a son. You're like, I think after the TCU victory, he talked about his son Shador and he talked about my other son Travis. So it's very much sort of I think part of it has been I think and I told you this complex, like when we start talking about families and the roles people play, a lot of times I think we get so wrapped up in this Americanized version of what it really is when you look at Black America, it's always been very much a group effort. You always hear if you talk to almost any Black person, they always talk about whether it be going to visit for a little bit in the summer, their family members in the South, or if they were just straight up sent there.
Right.
Like, hey,
You asked me about that earlier.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
like whether you were just straight up sent there and hey, go spend some time with these people for a few months in the summer or something like that.
Yep.
So, I've always, for me, two parents until my dad passed when I was a teenager. And then, my mom's side of the family, my uncles on that side of the family, as well as a couple of aunts I was really close to. They played a very, very instrumental part in the rest of my life. Until I went off to college, really. And I think that's how it works in a lot of, and truth be told, they would have played a lot more earlier on if I didn't live so far from them, just because of where my dad had a job at the time. But yeah, no, I think going back to your point of like, Dion, what he's doing, it's one of those elements I think we don't talk about. But I think it's very important just for, like I said, moving and development. I was going to ask you too, Johnny Blaze. You don't mind me asking, is the university you teach at, is it an HBCU or is it just a normal PWI or large?
It's a normal PWI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty sizable black population, or
actually, yeah, it is, surprisingly. We do have
That's
a good
crazy. Isn't that a what do they call those?
Now I will say
oxymoron or some shit. Like how do you what the heck?
But let me preface this by saying I do work for a for-profit university. So let me say that.
Okay, well, that's one hell of a preface.
Mm-hmm. No. The only reason I even asked for that is that you even see that because I went to a PWI for undergrad, but I had friends who went to HBCUs, and that was the thing that I sort of got was the vibe that was very different. If you want to take it to the mentorship in the academic space, or sort of that father figure is. PWIs kind of operate like a business for all intents and purposes. Like
they do. Oh yes.
Yeah. like if you're there, they're like, okay, it's your tuition. You can choose to come to class or not. And whether you pass or fail this test is irrelevant to me. It's very much like, hey, you go from high school to where teachers kind of had, a more hands-on approach to like, these professors don't mind handing out the syllabus, giving you a week, maybe reminder. And if it's not there, you failed. And I always talk to my friends at HBCU, and they were just like, hey, the vibe is very different. Like professors will take, they will be very strict and very stern with you, but there's a lot more focus on like development and like, I think someone said they had a professor call them like when they didn't show up to class, like, hey, what's going on? Why weren't you in my class today? The environments are different. And I'm sure you can speak to some of that.
Yeah. So like before we had this thing, I was actually doing tutoring at 10 o'clock this morning with students. And today's Sunday. Now, female student, she's not Black African American, but still I give all my students, the same level of interaction. She called me last night. She requested some help. I said, I got some time this morning for you. So, but after we went through the whole tutoring thing, she still was struggling, had a little bit of crying going on, but trying to calm her back down. This is just kind of one of the things that I try to do.
So wait, you're talking about like basically providing guidance after hours type.
After hours.
That fatherhood thing that you were talking about there.
Yeah.
Much like he even when, like, let's just say there's a coach who has maybe an athlete that's having problems at home. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like that's kind of why I thought this was a very interesting angle that Renaissance man brought up, because there's going to be various times or aspect or times in our lives where, based on what we do, we're going to find ourselves actually doing that and engaging in that part of us.
Yeah.
Right. That I would say not only like children, so young and adult children, they still look for guidance from their parents, even as young adults. Right. That's why mentors are very important as well. Sometimes the guidance that's needed can't be provided by the parents.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that happens a lot in Black America, just because of like, where we've been historically, the lack of, or the social mobility is somewhat that we're starting to see a little bit now. You know, there are instances where I'm in situations where my parents like, hey, I've never had to deal with that before, and you know, or you may be working in an environment or an industry where they just don't have any sort of clue, and that's where mentorship, another Black person kind of comes into play, or maybe even someone non-Black. To be honest with you, it just depends on your level of comfort in the situation. But no, I definitely agree. It's sort of we tend to think about it in a I guess more of a, hey, these people are kids. But I mean, I've talked to businessmen, men who are in their 40s, where they've got a critical decision, and they'll reach out to their dad and say, hey, what do you think about this?
Yeah, and let me touch on this comment right here. That's too much coddling to me, right? And like, let me give like a real world example of what I'm getting at, right? So I have a mentor, and he's a Jewish man. Okay, like this is where I get kind of like a lot of my mechanical engineering and all that prowess from. I get it from him. Okay, that's something that my dad was never. That's not something that he did. Okay. However, to my mentor, I was like a son to him because he had two daughters who could kind of care less about like how to make precision tools and shit like that, how to use lathes and all that. Like they could care less about it. And so, you know, he possessed the type of knowledge that within him felt as though he needed to pass the shit on before he goes. Right? He's like, yo, somebody's gonna have to take this and do something with it before I go. Right? And I think that's something that's innate in men, especially if we've spent all of our developing years and our adult years developing a skill set or a trade, a profession. At some point, what you're going to want to do is pass that on. And if there's not someone within your proximity, then it's going to be a mentee, most likely.
Yeah, you know what comes to mind when you say that, Complex?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think of Kobe Bryant's funeral, and I don't know if you all remember, Michael Jordan got up there,
Yeah,
and he was crying, and he was
yeah,
talking about how essentially Kobe had become his little brother.
yeah.
That he texted him at random hours, asking about different moves and stuff like that,
Mhm,
and and they'd occasionally talk about parenting and things like that.
mhm.
But he was just, you could kind of tell, like, that Kobe had kind of become that annoying little brother to him. But in his mind, he saw it as, hey, this is someone who's trying to be great, and was not threatened by that, but saw like, hey, someone's got to carry this on.
Right, right.
So to your point, I definitely think, I definitely think you're 100% spot on that. And yeah, I could definitely say, yeah, two daughters and they're not interested, and you find someone who's serious, is showing the
Dude, it's
commitment.
sheer
Yeah,
genius. A sheer genius. We're talking mechanical, electrical engineering, like just like everything, dude. Like he's just supposed to like just pass on, and no one took from him the things that he acquired. These are kind of maybe you would say more deeper philosophical questions.
Right. Hey, Complex, I want to kind of go back just to
Go ahead. Yeah, I was gonna go to
yeah.
you, JB. Go ahead, man.
No, you said something about seeking like outside help. And I think that as a parent or even as a mentor, we don't know everything. And sometimes there are going to be things, and you mentioned skill sets that are outside out, like your father. He went and he didn't have the particular skill sets, and I guess the engineering that you described,
Yeah.
you had to get it from someplace else. And I think that's one thing we have to be aware of. We have to know each of our own limitations.
Right.
Like my daughter, she doesn't do computers. Like I love computers. I love healthcare. That's not my daughter's will set. My daughter's more into art and other things, but surprisingly, my mother is. My mother's very good at it. So they have a rapport when it comes to that kind of stuff. I'll seek outside help.
Hmm.
Now, what my daughter is very good at, and for instance, is cooking. She's much better than I am. So
Yeah, you told me that, man. That's great.
yeah,
You know, my daughter's really her skills are getting up there, bro.
yeah, but
I
I
ain't gonna
think
lie.
yeah, that's something that we definitely need to focus on. Know our strengths, know our weaknesses, and if we have to seek outside help, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, we
But I
don't know it
was
all, you know.
yeah, but I was hoping that Clay would actually elaborate on what he mean by too much coddling.
Well,
That's
no, I think it goes back to something Renaissance Man was saying.
Mhm.
It was because I was trailing the last point that Renaissance was saying, and so um, that's kind of where I was just like, well, depending on the role, right? Because like my mentor was not coddling me.
yeah.
Trust me, he was grilling me. He would take his shots at me like if my weld was bad. You don't think he wasn't talking shit? You know, you know what I mean? So it was like with even my mentor, no, it wasn't a coddling or anything. He was
Right.
putting me through my goddamn paces.
Now, I will say, along with that, though, we are more in the tech age where the information is right at your fingertips.
Mhm.
And there's this little experiment I love to do with people. Is I'll ask them, how many phone numbers do you know off the top of your head?
Oh my god, really?
Yeah. Now, I was at a family event a few weeks ago, and there was a bunch of people there. Some of my family, some random strangers, and I said this number out loud. And both of my aunts, who were like 10, 20 years older than I am, knew the number instantly.
Yeah.
It was my grandmother's phone number that none of us have used in almost 20 years,
Yeah.
but we all knew it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I know I still know my wife's home number in
Yeah.
Chicago.
So that's what I think, because the times are changing, we kind of have to adapt, with our environments, and trying to find ways to navigate around, around environmental issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Ren, what you got on it, bro?
No, I was gonna say, but even to the point of even if the information is there, um, the information will only carry so far. When you start talking about, what I do with that information, because that to me, that almost at times can make you need even a mentor for even more reasons. Is now you're overwhelmed. Like now there's tons of information out there, and you need someone who's sort of faced something like this before, or like has thought through this. Like one instance that comes to mind for me was, it was a few years ago in my career. I had moved to DC on a temporary assignment, and I was kind of on the fence as to whether I should take this job here and stay here, or move back. And it was a male figure in my life who, you know, I really just sort of reached out to and said, hey, I've done the math on, like, the price of living here, and this is how much I've been making, this is how much I'd be making back here, what makes more sense. And just talking to him and hearing him really throw it back at me to really be like, hey, what do you want to do long term, and which one of these doors gets you closer to your long term goal?
Mhm.
And the money you're talking about here is negligible. So, and really framing it that way to really make me think about, oh, okay, I see what you're getting at. You know, that's one instance to me that sort of comes to mind of, hey, I have all this information, but at the end of the day, I've got to make a decision. And someone who to sort of bounce that off of, especially early in your career, how would they deal with that? That's where it's still valuable, in my opinion.
So
Right.
he gave you some kind of perspective.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and this kind of reminds me of something me and my daughter were doing yesterday. But it reminds me of like taking a picture, but putting something in the picture to give it some scale.
Hmm.
Now you see how big the object really is, or like in Renaissance case, all this information that he has. Okay, you got it all. Here are the options that you can do with the information. This is the best way to play. And I think that's where experience really plays its vital role.
Mm. I mean, I'll tell you like this, man. like I said, my most immediate example of this would be like, my mentor, like literally the person that, we ended up inheriting Pacific Rides from when he retired. He was like, to take it and do something with it. I gave you yeah, take it. You know what I mean? And that was like the ultimate sign of him, symbolizing like, look, dude, and even to today, I talked to him last week. I just talked to him last week. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of why I just kind of go back to that coddling thing. It's like, no, that's not it. There's a higher perspective here that we need to kind of analyze here, right? Where the very thing that we do innately for our children, okay, are things that we will also do subconsciously in various other aspects of our lives. Now, we've been talking about largely what, like mentorship here, for the last few moments,
That's right.
right? But what about like, wait, let me go back to what Renaissance has sent me.
Well, I was gonna say I have a question, sort of,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you want
go
to
ahead,
take it
go
back
ahead.
a little
Yeah, go
bit
ahead.
complex, sort of more a question to both of you guys. You know, one of the things, not being a father, but one of the books that I read that really stood out to me was In Black and White, The Way I See It by Richard Williams. This is before the movie came out. Obviously, Will Smith depicting it. But one of the things I was blown away by in that book was how intentional he was. Like he was literally watching a tennis match one day. He saw how much money someone won, and he was like, I'm gonna have two girls and they're gonna be tennis players. And like he literally wrote a business plan and all these things before they were born, of just path plan, all these things. And I'm just like, wow. Like, I'm not saying that, you can definitely be overbearing as a parent, you can definitely go too far, but you know to me that was so interesting, just seeing that's how you got a Venus and a Serena Williams, is it was not an accident. um and
Yeah,
and I guess to that point, to y'all, like, obviously people may have not gone to that extreme, but like intentionality, like some things, like I said, I'm seeing friends, start to have kids, and I'm sort of thinking like, oh damn, like if I was in that scenario, like what would I want, like, all of a sudden the school they go to, what their what the demographics, obviously the demographics of that school, like, what their social life, like all of that, like just becomes like, yeah, I definitely want to be very intentional about that. And I was just curious, like your thoughts, your experiences with that intentionality, like, raising kids.
yeah. Well, JV, you want to go ahead? You want to go first on that one?
I'll try to go first. I mean, granted, I'll say this, man. I did not have that vision like he did in that book, not even close. So, um, but what now? My daughter, she does work. My daughter's special needs, but she does have a job. So I was able to help her do that. At least secure a job that she works at. She enjoys it. Um, but like I was saying earlier, a lot of outside of being a father, mentor, there is planning involved, and obviously in the book, this guy, he did extreme planning. Um, but even as I think back to my childhood, I think I'm what they call like a latchkey kid. Pretty much, you kind of like had to kind of raise yourself. Parents were out working.
Majority of us Gen Xers are, bro.
Yeah. And so I really can't answer this one,
Well,
in a good way.
well,
Well,
no,
no.
I was gonna say, I think. Oh, I was gonna say, John, you said your daughter had some special needs. I'm assuming that made you very sensitive and very intentional, you and your wife at the time, about
Yes. So
a
yes,
lot
so
of
we had to
things,
do
I'm
very
sure.
intentional. So I guess from that regard, yes, there were a lot of things we did getting her all the therapy sessions, the doctor's appointments, trying to keep her in regular classrooms as much as possible. So my daughter, she did graduate high school. She did about one semester of college. It didn't quite work out. I pulled her out of that, and we ended up going into the working world.
Uh, uh, okay, so I will say this. right? And I'm glad that we're kind of going here with it. This goes for both men and women who may be listening to this, right? Who may you don't have kids, but this is just some insight from somebody who does have. Next week she'll be 12. Literally, she's going on like 28. Yeah,
Congrats.
it's crazy, dude. So this is parenting style is a thing. I'm gonna just keep it real,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
So like let's say like with the Richard Williams thing, right? Um, if you bothered to do this, if you were to go onto my personal YouTube channel and go back maybe like about 3-4 years, you'll find videos of me trying to get well, not trying. I was training her in karting, like racing go-karts and shit, right? I'm thinking, listen, I can if I get at her young, she can just easily take this on and do it, right? Like, I'll make her really good, right? Let me tell you something, dude. She's way too feminine for that shit. She's really good at it. She can do it. But you know what she told me one day? Like after when we went to an indoor kart track and we did a session, and I was like geeking out. I was so proud of her and stuff. I even put the videos up on my channel. But we were in the car. She's like, Dad, it's fun, but it's dangerous. and, and this is kind of like her more feminine her feminine side saying, what the hell? Do you really think I want to get out here and risk life and limb to race a damn go-kart? I mean, I can probably do it, yeah, but eh, you know what I mean? And so what I didn't do was force it on her. Now, with Richard Williams, on the other hand, he took a different approach with his kids. Okay, he took a different approach. With me, I said, okay, babe, that's not it. That's not it. Wait, you know, with me, I was just like, okay, babe, that's not it. That's fine. Okay, okay, no worries, no worries. Right? I figured over time there would be something that would reveal itself that would be like a natural inclination for her. And what I found, and it's funny that I'm even saying this because JB's daughter's the same way. Cooking. His daughter cooks, and so does mine. And so much so where it's just sort of like she's got the type of interest in it where it's just sort of like, well, Dad, I want to go to culinary school. Damn, you already know you want to do that right now, and you're already getting in the kitchen and cooking stuff, and then making it, and then cleaning up the dishes and putting in. Okay, but me knowing her mother, she's taken right after her. See, so sometimes what we do is we as parents, we can also take a more casual, observable approach. We just observe what our children are naturally inclined to take an interest in, and then support that.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's a natural inclination. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, and I was like I said, Richard Williams, he had obviously some extremes. I've never gotten, obviously we'll never know if that was just something that, they just got into it and loved it, or, they just did it because, you'd be surprised how many athletes really hate being an athlete. But just do it. But one that does come to mind is Bryce Young. Recently drafted. I actually watched a video. He started apparently throwing a football when he was like 3 years old. And his father kind of realized, oh wow, he's really got a talent for this. And he did everything from getting him a trainer when he was 7 to encouraging him to like, hey, go play with guys who are better than you, to improve your skill set, to I know Bryce talked about, hey, them making the sacrifice to go drive here for his games and this and that. And just seeing him play, you see just how much of a natural like he is. Like they even said that he was so good at reading the field at Alabama, they actually took some of these RPO type of plays out of the playbook and put more pro style plays in. Because he was that good at reading the field. He's one of those people, like it's just a natural gift he has. But just seeing his dad and his mother and the role they played and just like fostering all that was just to your point, Complex, that's some parents like to force it. I think I'd be much more like you of, hey, once you find that thing that you like and you want to sacrifice for, you know, I'll be 100% behind you.
You, JB, can you comment on Rael's comment?
Which one?
The one right there. Do you see it?
One of the hardest things for parents to do is let the yes, that is absolutely. Because kind of like my daughter, when she was in high school, she used to do video editing. And I thought she was pretty good at it because on some of my early YouTube videos, my daughter does my editing. But come to find out, she actually hates video editing. She's good at it. She can do it, but she
good at it. She don't like it. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, have we all experienced that at some point?
Oh yeah. I think back to like, you know, like me. I joined the military. I kind of followed in my parent, like my mom was in the Army, so I followed in my mother's footsteps. I come from a real heavy military family, but we do radically different things, you know, because I'm a retired Air Force guy. My mom was in the Army, so even though we're both in the military, but we went radically different directions.
But I mean, think about it, right? Like I guess, like if your mom wasn't military, would you have even gone military, or would you have went straight into radiology like you are right now?
I had no clue what radiology was till I joined the military.
Okay, so the military actually led you.
Yeah. So I mean, so I will say my mother, she was kind of like my guide, like you know, she guided me that way. But now, you know, letting kids kind of find their own way. There was a young man I'm helping right now. He just moved cross country. He just moved from here in Virginia to Oregon, and I helped him get all his stuff packed up. You know, he's in his early 20s. And had to leave his mom's house, and you know she was very hesitant about this young man moving. I'm like, but you know, this is what he has to do as a man. He's got to go out there and make his way,
right?
You know, now he's gonna stumble, he's gonna fall, and you know, but long as it's not anything too bad, he always has a place to kind of come back to. But you know, you got to let him go out there and try it. You know, so that took place last week. So I'm happy that he's out there. I gave him, you know, I called him when he landed. Hey, if you need anything, you know, I'm here. Your mom's here, but you know, this is, you know, your chance to go out here and you know, live your life. So, and his mom, she raised him right. You know, he's a good kid. Well, I can say good kid. He's an adult. He's 24. So,
well, let me. I'll get, you know, both your takes on this. I'm just going to throw this out here, right? Does this all look different between the genders, like in terms of like male and female? This whole sort of guidance. I mean, I think the obvious answer.
I'm gonna say yes on the surface. You know, and I think it's gonna also count. You know, if we're talking mothers versus fathers, daughters versus sons.
Right.
Now, you know, I know myself, I'm slightly harder because of just my upbringing. You know, I'm military, my parents are military, you know, my mom's military. So I have a very regimented point of view, but someone who's never lived that lifestyle may be somewhat different. And it may depend on, like if I had a son, oh yeah, I'd be trying to kick his butt out the house immediately. Or if now I'll say also if my daughter wasn't special needs, yeah, you getting out of this house.
Well, you know what? Go ahead, Ron. So
get in on this. On that point, Johnny Blaze, like when you say that, do you mean along the lines of like, hey, you have to go to school or get a job, or like, because I will say, what's up? One of the things I did see, like, is even people when I, like, for me, once I moved out to go to college, I actually never moved back home except for, you know, I stayed at home during the summers and worked. And then, you know, after I got my job, I really moved away. But one of the things I started to notice was that, you know, a lot of my peers, they seem to live at home for maybe a few months, 6 months or something like that, get their job and get their money saved up. And then like, hey, I've got something to sort of that cushion out there.
Okay.
No. So I was going to ask along your lines, like when you say, "Hey, is that just hey 18? You got to figure it out," or
No. So let me clarify this. I'll say this. Basically, at 18, you got to start doing some level of contribution. If you're going to stay home, you got to have a job living in this house. That's pretty much. I mean, you got to have some form of contribution. You're not going to sit here and just play video games all day and watch TV. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, this is JB. This is why I do encourage like getting a job as a teenager, right? Or just pursuing a way to earn an income. That has to be something that is instilled early on.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, for me,
Right,
I
yeah,
wanted a job when I was a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
like because in my mind, it gave me a level of independence.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
I always remember being like, oh, like if I want this or that, I'm gonna have to go ask my parents, ask my mom, and then it's gonna be 1,000 questions. And it was just like, if you just go make the money, do a couple weeks of work, this and that, whatever you want to go buy, it's pretty much yours as long as you're not doing something illegal. And to me, that was it was empowering to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I've always associated with, hey, whatever you want, whether it be money you want to save, invest, or go buy something, having a job enables that.
And the other thing to that renaissance also is that I've been a hybrid type of guy, right? So I hold a job, but it's kind of strange how I do this, right? My job is literally full time, right? Right at the moment, I do remote work from home, right? So I do like contract work. However, my focal point is the business. And so my daughter growing up, everything from what she knows from her dad has always been business. Because I tell her, like, ultimately, the plan is to like sell this shit off for millions of dollars, and then I have you just literally set up for good, right? So it's of utmost importance, right? And see, so now in her head, she thinks to like have her own business. So one of the things that I want to do here for her birthday is to start a business for her.
Yeah.
Right?
I was gonna say, you know what?
Yeah.
One along those lines, one of the guys I'm good friends with at work, he was talking to me. He actually was he opened a Vanguard account for his daughter. For basically, hey, I'll put money in here periodically, into the market, and just sheer time, and even if it's just a small amount, at some point that'll be money that's hers one day.
Right.
That's good. Hey, I want to comment on Rael's comment here.
You got to go ahead.
Yeah, and this is spot on. Is to kind of have a plan, help them, So, for instance, my daughter, her supervisor came to me. Hey, she's having some issues. My daughter, her work performance was kind of low. So pretty much, told her, hey, if you don't maintain your performance, you might be letting go. So me and her, we had a little conversation. I said, guess what? Saturday, you and I going to work. Well, that's my off day. I said, no. You're an hourly employee. You're going to go play catch up because you're behind on work. So guess what? We were Saturday. We were working at work.
Hey,
because and it's for me that was more so trying to get her to understand or being that coach. Hey, there are days and times we have to do things that we don't want to do. I don't want to be at work on a Saturday. You don't want to be at work on a Saturday. So
I mean, if you don't have to be,
you don't have to. So because you kind of lollygag during the week. Now
you're sacrificing what should be your precious free time. Typically for people, that's the weekend, right?
And so and really go to Rael's main point here, says giving children options allows them to make informed choices. So now she knows her informed choice. If I don't mess around on my cell phone at work, I can get all my work done.
Yeah. And this is kind of like even with my kid, man. It's definitely going to be in the line of some sort of food type of thing, right? I'm actually kind of looking into the ghost kitchen thing right now, like literally just launching a ghost kitchen and then that's just her business, right? Like, so makes money, goes in her account for her.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's up, Ren? Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, Complex. Has she gotten so serious enough where, like, because I remember there was a girl I went to high school with. She had some sort of cooking lessons in, like, when she was like a sophomore,
Yeah.
junior in high school. Because this guy was her boyfriend. He was obviously, she'd go and bake stuff for him. Obviously it was delicious. So I don't know if she's interested enough at this point for even looking at that, like, classes, because I'm sure there are tons around.
Yeah, dude. Well. See, here's the thing, dude. So, my wife's half sister went to Cordon Bleu, right?
Oh, okay.
My wife always wanted to go to Cordon Bleu, but she never. She went to Loyola. She went to the University of Loyola, a Jesuit college. She did not go to Le Cordon Bleu, like the culinary school, right? So for her, absolutely, and her aunt is actually a graduate from there. So that's when we were talking about the guidance and trajectory, what JB was talking about, right? I can already see it on the horizon. You know, um, Cooking, healing arts, that kind of stuff. That she's just naturally inclined and in tune to that stuff. So what I want to do is just bolster it by encouraging her to just go ahead and go with it. I'm not going to tell her as her father, oh, that's bullshit, Almeida. No, you need to be an engineer. No, 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 no. Uh-uh.
No.
It's my responsibility. JB, you want to get in? You saying something?
Yeah, because
Go ahead.
I tried, like I said, I tried that pushing route. That's what the whole video editing thing was. But like I said, once I realized that she did not enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna do something, and this goes for pretty much anybody, right?
Mhm.
Whatever you're gonna do in life, we all hope to, like, enjoy the thing that provides us the sustenance to live a good life, right?
That's the only way
It's
you're
like,
really going to be good at it for most
well, I
people.
mean, think about it, man. It's like, you're not gonna be all that. You're not gonna be the greatest at a job you hate.
Yeah, absolutely not.
You're gonna have to love something about it.
This reminds me, Complex, when you came up with that that paradigm. There's a while back. I think it was you and Zero.
Uh,
The three circles. Oh God.
wait, was it the high value?
No. It was something about loving something, being good at something, and there was another.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh my God. You know what? On the Brain Trust, there is a live stream about it. I have to
Yes.
go and dig deep in there.
Mhm.
But that was something, yeah, we covered on the Brain Trust too. And I know what you're talking about. It's actually a thumbnail with the three circles.
Yes.
Um, God damn it. What was it?
And
What was it? What was it?
and this kind of like segues right into that. It's like when trying to coach a a young child, a young adult, and it's kind of like this. And I think about one of my mentors. He's actually a guy I met in the military. He's about 10 years older than me. And I always jokingly call him the smartest guy I know, because when I have problems, he's the person I go to for help.
Oh God, what is that? I know what you're talking about with the three circles.
No, I will say this while you're thinking about that too, Complex.
Yeah.
To Rael's comment here about, I've seen females on shows like Top Chef who went to Harvard and started their own farm to table restaurants in the world of food service. There's so much diversity, great field. Yeah, like here's the thing. Like I was reading an art. Like when you start talking about these major cities, I mean, you talk about being able to charge someone an arm and a leg for things. Who's wealthy? It's food. Like I saw there's actually a Wall Street Journal article I read the other week. There is a group of friends who were roommates who decided that they just wanted to basically publish a menu for a quote unquote fancy restaurant just to mess with people. Well, people actually went on and actually were interested in it, so they created a whole menu, hired people, rented out the place, and like within a couple weeks had like a 200 guest wait list, and like
Now,
food experts and
Wow.
all this coming to come
Renaissance, check this out. If had they been messing with us, I would have just told them to go ahead and go the ghost kitchen route.
That's
Yeah,
what it sounds like.
That's where you literally take that menu and just go to somebody who's already doing it, set it all up on the food apps, and then do what you just talked about with the food
Yeah.
blogger people and something rather, and then profit.
But yeah, no, and the funny thing was, it was actually a prank because they were not, they.
That's the
they-
cold
they-
part.
Yeah, that's the fun. Is that it was, and I was just like, it's New York City. Everybody's always looking for a way to one up one another. So I mean, I guess what I'm saying, big picture, to Ryle's point, is that I think a lot of us have gotten on to, they have to do something that's in demand, this and that. But part of it is, if you're really good at your job, no matter what you do, you're going to be well compensated. Unless it's just something obviously with that just you don't require any basic skills. But if you have to go and get any sort of additional educational training, if you are really, really good at what you do, you will not be struggling for work.
Well, and again, man, this is where the guidance comes in, right? If we kind of key in on our children's natural talents, right? Or let's go back to your general point in terms of the subject matter that we were talking about here, because sometimes it's not your kid. Sometimes you are the person who's the instructor, who is doing the instruction for the food handling license classes, or let's say it's at a cooking school or something, right? And you just recognize somebody that just has a natural born passion, and you're just like, I gotta help this person. Like, my thought is that is, isn't it? You guys tell me, isn't that like sort of like a natural inclination to want to do that?
It is, because now you can kind of see something that no one else can, because now you're identifying something, and like, how can we capitalize on this person's talent? Show them, and back to Ryle's original point, giving them options, because now we're capitalizing on what their actual strengths are versus trying to put them into some kind of like cookie cutter factory mold.
No, I agree 100%. And like I said, I think it's natural. The only I mean, if you run into someone who sort of, I'll put it like this: I've never reached out to a mentor and had someone say no. Or
wait, Renaissance, say that again.
I've never reached out to like someone who I've seen as like a possible mentor and had them say no. Like,
okay.
Like it at least in the professional world that I've experienced, like, it's kind of an honor if someone reaches out to you and says that. Because I have people who've reached out to me, been like, hey, I'd love to just have a monthly tag up or something with you. And for me, it's just always, it's exciting because I learned some things I usually don't know. I'm able to pass on some information as well. But then, it's like I said, it's a compliment as well, because that person sees you as, someone that they view as has good judgment, can help take them to the next level. It's kind of the ultimate form of compliment if you really think about it.
No, it is, right. So we're coming up on an hour, right? So I think we got another good 30 minutes on it, because I want to be mindful of your guys' time. You guys are on the East Coast, and I'm gonna have to start getting dinner together. So we're gonna continue this discussion here for the next 30 to 40 minutes, right? But let me ask you guys this: is there a difference? And I'm gonna ask this, and I'm gonna let you guys go ahead and discuss it. I'm gonna walk away for a quick second. But is there a difference between when it's a child and when it's an adult? And I'm saying outside of the realm of parenthood, right? Because I think with the actual parenthood, and this is where maybe like JB and I, we can actually give our take on it, because his daughter's an adult, mine isn't. But we're still fathers to these children, right? But let's just say outside of that realm, when we're talking about the mentorship, you're the big cousin, you're the uncle, you're the coach, is there a difference between when it's a child and when it's an adult?
Okay. Well,
And
I'm gonna.
I'm gonna go ahead and rock, JB. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
right back.
Okay. Because I'm thinking about this now. I would definitely have to say yes, at least regards to me. I know, and I'll say, and I'm gonna think, and I'm gonna use a backwards way here. I'm gonna use the two words. I'm gonna use the words how and the words why. And one thing I look at is children always ask why we have to do something, whereas adults, this is where you begin to transition into how do we do something. So that's probably my biggest take on that. It is going from the why to the how. And I think as a mentor or as a coach, or just as an adult role model, is trying to teach a child to transition into the adult is to ask those very specific questions, going from why do we do something to how do we do something. What do you think, Ray?
No, I think that no, that's a very good point. It definitely shifts as people get older. But I would say there are even instances I think you have to explain the why to people as well too. In the sense of if it's not always like clear, like for me,
Mhm.
going back to the example I gave of looking at a job,
Mhm.
the why was pretty clear to me. It was basically insinuated or basically said as, you know, the why was, hey, you want to get the experiences you need for further down the road.
Yeah.
So this is the why of why even if this job pays a little bit less, it makes more sense to go do it. And the how was the how was kind of in front of me. I sort of dealt with the how, but I think there would be more instances as well too, even when people are adults, where it could be a mixture of both of you know
Mhm.
whether we talk about like, hey, I've cousins who were looking at going to school or like trying to break into tech through like a boot camp or something, and my advice to them is always they're looking at, well, obviously when you're young, you have things, you're looking around, seeing people, doing well. You want to obviously make as much money as you can at that age. And my stance, explanation to them is always, this is how you get to that as a sustainable way is you invest in your skill set. And
Mhm.
that's kind of the why and the how. The why, well, I guess I take back. The why is, if you want long-term sustainable income, employment. And the
Yes.
how is, hey, you need to go look at this course, you need to go look at this and that. So
Mhm.
I find that it definitely shifts because when they're kids it's just more of why, and they just sort of go and do because you're probably telling them, hey, we need to go school shopping, or we need to spend this much time on homework, and here's the why. And then they go obviously and do, versus older, more autonomy in those things. It can be, like I said, it sort of shifts less from the why, but the why is still there.
Yeah, like I think back to my last few years on active duty, and orders come down, we have to get something done, and the first thing out of everybody's mouth is, "Why we got to do this?" I'm like, "Oh God, not this again." And it's like so it's like come on, these are the marching orders. We have rules and regulations. Our job is to figure out how to make these things happen. But it's like, okay, we can discuss the how and why a little bit later, but this is what has to happen.
Yeah, right. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and that, there's some information that I'm teaching right now. We're into how the equipment works. And so I'm explaining, the radiology equipment and the components. And the first thing they ask is, why do we have to learn this? Now, I will say to Renaissance statement, it is actually a fair question. I don't necessarily like answering it, and the real reason I always tell them it's because of how the guidance is written. And it's the transition of the old days of equipment to the new days, and I think there's a gap that they don't want to take the knowledge out. But my guys don't work on the equipment, they operate it. But we have to at least understand the operation.
Right.
Yeah, even though we don't fix it, we still have to understand the basic. And it always is. I always have a fight when I get to the equipment side of the house.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it's like if you have a problem with a car, let's just say you may not have the tools or the ability to fix it, but at least you want to know, right? There's an ignition issue.
Right. And a car's a perfect example. Okay, do we know how an engine actually works? Why you have to put oil inside this thing for it to run, and,
Mhm.
and it's those are basic things that need to be taught. And even though you may not be able to fix it per se, but you still need to have an understanding of
Yes,
the
basic
operation.
functioning and understanding of the operation of it, right? Like just knowing like understanding the importance of having oil changes every 3,000 miles, right? Doesn't mean that you do the oil change.
Right.
It just means that you go get the oil changed every 3,000 miles,
Yeah.
right? Because you fundamentally understand the importance of it.
There's a guy I know. He's divorced now. He was married for well over 20 years, got divorced, but the guy couldn't cook. He had no idea how to make food.
Wow.
And now he's single alone and he has to figure out how to feed himself, because right now
Jeez.
going out to restaurants and fast food, he can't afford it long term.
I mean, that's gotta okay, this kind of maybe circles back a little bit, right? To like
Mhm.
you know, early childhood development.
Yeah, so that's that. How to take care of
They used to
yourself.
teach this stuff in school, JB. They called it home economics.
Mhm.
They used to teach home ec in school. So how we have adults now who don't know these things. I mean, again, dude, this is kind of going back to this whole sort of father figure aspect of things, right? In various venues, when you see that what it is you're providing instruction to somebody, but let's just say you see a deficiency in other aspect that you could also assist in. Do you do it? Right? Does that innate instinct to provide guidance, does it kick in? Because that you then become that father figure, quote unquote. We're just doing this in air quotes. Because it's a figure. It's not you're actually playing the dad figure,
Mhm.
right? Or I'm sorry, you're not playing the dad. It's a figure. So there's an aspect of guidance, right? An instruction that you're trying to provide, the same as if a father would.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Go ahead, Ren. Go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you, Complex. This is one question. We were kind of talking about parenting styles earlier.
Hmm.
That was one thing that sort of, I started to, come to mind too. I was talking to one guy. This is a while ago, but he had a son, and he said he was watching a video, and I think like kid wanted something, that was up on a high place, and like they found a way to get up there and actually get it, and and I was telling them like my first reaction as a parent would have been like, the first reaction is to say, "Oh no, you should have hurt yourself. You shouldn't have." But then I'm also thinking, but then there's a level. If you look at it from another way, there's a level of, oh, you saw something you wanted, and
Hmm.
you found the ingenuity to go do it. That's not a bad thing.
No.
It's just not the thing to do in that situation
Yeah, yeah, you have
for
to
X,
recognize. Yeah,
for
you
X,
know what I
Y,
mean.
and Z.
Sometimes you want to be like, okay, I don't need you to be doing that, but holy crap, how did you figure that out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And to me, that kind of goes to like parenting style. And it seems like I just from looking at you, Complex, from talking to you, Complex, you seem to have like I know that I don't know all of them, but I know there's some people who are more authoritarian in their parenting styles, and then there are more people who are more focused in like, hey, I want my kid to be able to think. I want them to do for themselves. I want them to be sort of independent minded, and that push and pull. And then I feel like if you add the layer on top of like, being in Black America, of like, you're aware of the society, so you don't want to create this super like rebellious kid that doesn't have any respect for authority, but then at the same time like you want to keep that innovativeness, that creativity, that all those things that aren't necessarily fostered in an authoritarian environment. Just
Well, no,
how do you juggle
look
those
at
things?
Mike's comment. He's saying, "Hey, man, look, the newest air fryers have AI built in. They cook your meal for you."
Hey, I'm gonna let him know, man.
Go ahead,
Like,
JB. You got it.
this guy's way too old to still be eating chicken nuggets, man.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, but no, I was just asking for both of you guys, like juggling that as parents, like
Mhm.
that sort of tension, or do you? I mean, or do you sort of do you naturally just gravitate to one over the other?
I'll say it's
Go
situational.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead,
Really.
JB. Go ahead.
I mean, like, it's for me, like I said, it's going to be situational. Whatever the thing, the task needs to be done. Like I said, because my daughter, she's an adult, she still lives here, but she pretty much does her own thing. Like we spent time together yesterday. We went out to a daggone pumpkin patch. you know,
Oh, shit. Really?
yeah.
I ain't been one of those in years.
Me, yeah, same here. Because my daughter doesn't drive, so but she ate. We got up, went out there, hung out. Took
Oh,
some pictures. Bought some apple butter.
hell yeah, dude. I ain't had apple butter in years.
Yeah, that stuff it's really good.
Is it good?
Yeah,
Gosh, I ain't like literally since I was a kid, bro. I haven't had apple butter in years.
yeah.
This is
So
all like fall stuff, right? Pumpkin spice and all that shit.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we
So,
got I took my daughter out to the pumpkin patch.
so hopefully that answers your question, Renaissance.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, okay, and so for me, Ren, well, you know what? Just repeat that question again. I want to get the full extent of it.
No, I was just saying, like, I don't know if for you, it's more of like one of the things that sort of come to mind for me is that if you're raising like a kid,
Mhm.
that some people just naturally think, hey, they take a more authoritarian approach because they're really concerned about a child that's like super respectful, obeys the rules. But then I'm also like, you have people who are very much in like, hey, I want my kids to be independent thinkers. I want them to stand up for things that they believe in, even if, like, the dominance,
Yeah,
whatever the dominant narrative doesn't fall into that.
yeah.
I want them to be independent thinkers, and sort of those things sort of contradict at times. And I was like, how do you juggle that as a parent? Or are you one of those parents who are the opposite of, hey, I want my kid to obviously be, respectable in society, but I do the bare minimum there, and I really want them to be, their own person
No,
and really go for what their
yeah,
convictions are and think and all of those things.
no. That's just throwing them out there to the wolves. That's what that is. The latter that you just said, that's throwing them out to the wolves. Okay. Now the former that you're talking about, that's where JB and I align, right? Where it's really a thing where once you have children, dude, you really do have to be attentive to them. You have to really know what their proclivities are, where their strong suits and where their weaknesses are. And then again, we talked about guidance and trajectory. That's on us to put them on that. Now, within that trajectory path, that's when we allow for the decision making to happen from a free will perspective. It's like a contained free will exercise, right? They're making decisions on their own. However, they're on a guided path, though. They're not, it's not willy nilly. You get what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
when there's no guidance, when all that's absent, that's when these free will decisions become willy nilly. That's when they become just this sort of, okay, every situation is different. Now I need to figure it out, right? Whereas really our lives should be more centered. So there shouldn't be a lot of things that are kind of coming into our purview that do not belong. And the reason why that should be the case is because if you kind of already have your path charted out, your trajectory, then there's only going to be but so many things that are going to come into that purview in terms of decision making. You get what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and we as parents have to establish that. We have to do that. Like my daughter already knows. I'm like, babe, let me tell you something. As long as you're not married, you live with me. That's an unequivocal rule that we're not changing that shit. The expectations are already set. I'm saying she already knows she already knows the pretty much part of the trajectory already. You ain't going nowhere until you got something solid with somebody, and there's an engagement ring, and there's a plan for marriage and family and life as a unit. That's my role. That's my job. Okay. In addition to that, until that happens, my job is to take care of her. My job is to just set her up. My job is to make sure that she's interdependent, not independent. Interdependent. She's going to be responsible. She knows how to pay her bills and all that kind of shit and all this and all that. But that's not like some sort of badge she's going to hang her life's purpose on. Right? It's basically a thing that all adults do. They pay bills. I don't get where the empowerment comes in off of all this shit.
Oh, so you're not so you would have a problem if she wanted to like move out at say like 23, 24.
She already knows that that's not happening. We've had I don't know how many conversations we've had about this, but if I were to like literally bring her onto this live stream right now, she's gonna tell you the importance of like why it is that, you know, she doesn't want to be, and this isn't me implanting this in her head. This is just her kind of seeing things. Right? She says, well, you know, Dad, I'm not as strong as a man is. And I'm like, you have your own strength, babe. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses. Just understand that. She's like, yeah, but you know, I'm not as strong as a guy, so I'm not gonna, you know, try to do what guys do. And you know, look, she tried to teach me this shit. Once again, I'm bringing up the karting stuff, right? I was trying to make her a race car driving chick. She's like, Dad, are you fucking serious? Oh, girl. Like, dude, she checked me on this.
That's called having foresight.
Boom.
She wasn't buying the Danica Patrick route.
No, she wants to cook food. Okay, so who the hell am I to tell her? Actually, no, babe, you're gonna go race cars. You know what? Honestly, I would actually prefer that you cook food. Thank you for telling me that you would prefer to do that than race cars. So I don't push her to the shit. Hell, I can't even get her to go to the track with me just for leisure nowadays. Like, man, it smells out there. I'm like, okay, you know what? Never mind.
Yeah,
you don't want to go. You don't want to go.
Complex.
Okay.
My daughter sometimes like she'll push me out of the kitchen. Like, nah, Dad, you're not making it right.
Yeah. Can you get out of here, please?
Yeah. Or like me go shopping, you know, she's getting all the ingredients and stuff. No, we're getting this, and this. I'm like, no, we don't need this.
Yeah, you're just like, wait, did I budget for all this shit?
Yeah. So now I'll tell you one thing, like we go grocery shopping now, you know, my daughter and I, we kind of alternate who's paying for groceries. So I'm starting to have her contribute to paying groceries now, you know, teaching, hey, you know, she pays her own cell phone bill. She buys all the little things that she needs. So, you know, even though she still lives at home, she has her level of responsibility.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of getting back to the crux core of what we're talking about is those individuals, you know, outside of our households. I think the best thing, you know, if we see someone, you know, and I think if we take a genuine interest in somebody, you know, we think they have some talent or some kind of thing that can make them, you know, elevate to a level higher than what they are. I don't see anything wrong with pursuing that. Or the other side is someone coming to us asking for help, for guidance, you know, and if we have the ability to you know, to do it, then I think we should. And if we don't, maybe we can, you know, guide them to someone who can.
You know, real quick, you know, JB, and let me ask you about this. Really, we're coming up on an hour and a half or so. We'll give it, you know, we'll give it 10 minutes because I actually got to go run to the grocery store myself to grab some stuff for dinner here. What about doing that, right? And being resented for doing it. What about doing that?
There's that.
Yeah. Because this shit you told me on the phone, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That, you know, because you know, I've kind of maybe dealt with that somewhat recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about that part?
Yeah, about that
And I would
part.
get Ren's thought on that too. But what say you, JB?
You know, it's like when you start trying to help people out, whether they look like you or they don't look like you,
Hmm.
is, you know the reason why you're doing this internally. Um, so I'll say, I always try to be true to yourself when you're doing this. And if you're doing it, kind of, getting paid, now you become a consultant.
Okay, that's a job,
That's a
right?
job now.
That's a job.
Yeah.
You
Now,
know,
'cause-
actually, you're paid to not give a fuck, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, because I've been approached about doing some stuff like this, getting paid, but but I told the person honestly, I would love to get paid doing this, but what you're asking for is outside of my skill set.
Okay.
Okay. So, and I would feel disingenuous taking money and not providing a quality service.
Mm.
Okay. At least, because what they're asking for was something that I couldn't do. But I do think sometimes, kind of getting back to what you were saying here, how outside forces see it. And I'm going to use the sports thing. I'm not a big sports person, but I
Mm.
always see the people out here early Saturday and Sunday mornings out here with the kids practicing,
Yeah.
going through the sports stuff all the time. But yet, when I'm trying to get folks over here hey, come and do some other like science kind of stuff, it
You got to
falls on deaf
drag them
ears.
out, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's one thing that always kind of annoys me. The
Mhm.
sports, they're out there day in, day out. When I'm trying to get these parents, like, because I do deal with parents for these young adults. Oh, I absolutely, early 20s. I've had to have some phone calls with parents. Hey, I need your son, your daughter to do some more studying, or get them out the house. Don't bother them, so they can. Some parents listen, and others are like, "Well, I think this is best."
But JB, you know, that would make sense if you were calling the parent of a high school student and you were a high
Yes,
school teacher. That would make sense. But in what you're saying right now, it's just like, really?
yes, this is really yes.
Wow.
And sometimes, yes, now I'm luckily, at least in my program, I don't deal with this a whole lot, but I've seen my coworkers in other programs outside of radiology deal with it a lot.
Hmm.
Parents literally come in here. How come my student is failing? Well, ma'am, have your student pull the book out, and the book is still in plastic. That is why you're.
Red, you got something on it, bro?
Yeah, no. Big picture. What was your question? I followed Johnny Blaze, but I want to make sure I got the right question.
Gosh.
It's a pushback from like outside.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Wait, when you say from outside, are you talking about like outside of the family?
So for example, right? So have you ever experienced a time where you 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 kind of like took the initiative, right?
Oh,
Only
okay.
for them to reject what you were trying to do, right? When you kind of identified those deficiencies, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I haven't seen as much like active pushback. It'll be more like not a defiant. It'll be more like, oh, okay, that's nice, and I really won't hear anything from you, or in the sense of, hey, go and do this and let me know this, and that, and you don't hear anything back from them. Sort of that, ghosting is the thing that's become very,
Oh
very
yeah.
popular. Instead of people just saying, or maybe they don't want to feel like they're disrespecting someone, or maybe it's just not a priority. I've definitely seen that. But then I also, if you're talking about a younger person, I also understand that, hey, I was younger too, and I probably had my instances of either someone was offering something and I was like, didn't quite see the value, or didn't quite see the value in their advice and didn't quite follow it. So I don't take it personally, but then at the same time I always look at it as, okay, like, you need to leave that there. Like, if that person comes back, it needs to be well, hey, I mentioned this, go knock this out and then we can talk.
Mm-hmm.
So, not really moving unless there's just like a situation has changed or things have evolved, like, sort of keeping that path in place.
As you get older, I think JB he can probably speak to this better than I can because he has to actually practice this day to day in his job, right? But as you get older, you become more acute at gauging who you should extend that part of yourself to and who you don't, right? Or how much.
Yes, I can. Like,
Yeah, I figured that. Go ahead, JB.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I had a recent conversation with a couple students. They were asking some questions. I said, because they're getting ready to graduate. I said, look at your classmates. There's 10 students in this classroom. I said, you two are still here. Where are your classmates at? They're gone. I said, and they're every time soon as class is over, they bolt out the door. I said, those who need additional help, you want to stay back? Where are they? Every student has my personal cell phone number, and the same ones always call and text me. The others I never hear from. So I think, in reality, you can only do so much. I mean, there is a limit. I try to be there for them, but at some point, the information that you give, either they're going to be receptive or it's going to fall on deaf ears.
Right. And that's kind of where maybe we should kind of wrap this up on that point, right? Because at the end of the day, the title of this was father figure. So it's the figure, right? It's not the actual father itself. So, like, how much of ourselves do we give in our day to day, right, to provide that type of what we've determined as guidance and trajectory, right? Wisdom, these things that are attributes that are going to innately be passed on. If the father possesses them, they're going to innately be passed on to his natural born children, right?
Yeah, I think because one of the things I thought about big picture complex when I was thinking about this stream was, where is that line between, and I think this goes back to, you always hear people in this space, making fun of the quote unquote community, but in all honesty, when you look at a community, ours may not be the best example just because of all of the turmoil that has happened and the taxes have been leveraged on it, but I think that varies from community to community. Some communities, it seems like, it's very much emphasized, the sort of the nuclear family, and, everyone just sort of plays that role. And then some communities, it seems like there's a lot greater role expected of men as far as, sharing their wisdom to all people, because, they kind of view themselves more and truly of, hey, this is a group, this is my culture. And, obviously, I want to, help my family do well, but, my family doing well and my culture dying is not a good thing. So there seems to be that extension of obviously take care of your own, but then also be on the lookout for the greater culture, because, that's what, if to your point, if the father does die off, that's what your kids are going to fall back on, is the greater culture and community taking care of them.
Right, and I think that's kind of where, and sort of like an inverse, that's kind of what worked with me and my mentor. Given that, obviously you see me right there, and he's Jewish, right? But why did he feel as though he needed to go ahead and do that with me? Well, who else was he going to give it to? He felt that was actually more important than the color of the person he was passing it off to.
Well, yeah, to your point, I think you all share a culture of, of tech, of mechanics, of, that's in itself, we tend to say culture, and just because you're in America, it's very racialized and, very ethnocentric. Yeah. But, to your point that, I think one place that sort of, Johnny Blaze can speak to it, the military sort of, takes a little bit and tamps that down a little bit in the name of, national culture and preserving that. But, cultures, like I said, culture can be a whole host of things that tie around the person's identity, whether it be, their ethnic group or their interests and hobbies. It's
Yeah,
really identity.
sexual identity, all
Right.
kind of crazy stuff. Yeah.
I mean, because what you're describing, Renaissance, basically, it's like you're describing like culture really transcends race. I mean,
It does.
it does, and because the culture can be a bunch of different things, and I think we've probably pigeonholed culture too much to race at one point, and maybe it's time to start seeing it beyond that.
Goddamn, JB. Shit.
Or at the very
Because
least,
you said that, and then I was gonna respond, and then I kind of like it kind of sunk into my brain a little bit more. I was like, whoa, that was actually not actually, but I was like, wait, hold on. I'm not. I can't be so quick to give a because repeat that again. Shit.
No, I was saying, what he's describing is like, your Jewish mentor, he's teaching you the culture of the robotics and all the things. And I'm like, what Renaissance described, you described is culture transcending race.
Yes.
But I think for the longest time, we've been trying to use culture as a race dependent type variable.
Yeah.
But in reality, at least in modern times now, using the military, it transcends that.
Man.
oh yeah, because I mean,
yeah.
The industry I work in, I work with a lot of people who are former military, and I mean, that's one of the things I even talk to them is they talk about, coming out and transitioning into civilian life, and that's how you really realize, how much that culture of the military, and that's why there's so many things in the area I'm in of, different things that are there that, these guys really bond around and celebrate their time, almost a brotherhood in is you have seen, I mean, I'm not saying obviously that there's no racism in the military, but at the end of the day, especially if you start talking about people who, went in when they were 18 and did 20 years, that's essentially since they were a teenager, all they've known. So that's a strong bond and shared experience.
Absolutely.
That transcends race in from what I've seen in the civilian world.
Yeah. Well, look, man, we're up at an hour and a half. I need to go run to the grocery store, man, get dinner together. It's going on 3 o'clock here, so it's about that time.
It's almost 6 here.
So let's do this. First of all, let's make a promise to regularly get this going again, JB. And you know what? I'm not putting it on you, bro. It's on me, right? But to do these live streams, it's been a minute. I'm glad Renaissance Man kind of poked me on this, like, hey, let's do this, because I really enjoyed this conversation, man. It's been a minute since we've had one of these.
Oh, I'm glad he's on, man, because I'm telling you, some of the questions he asked really made me think about a lot of stuff, and I'm like, okay, let me start, actually, I'm actually, every question that he asked and you guys are talking about, I'm in here taking notes.
No, I'm saying, dude, when Renaissance hit me up about this, that's why the first thing I was like, okay, well, maybe we'll call it father figure. And then I started thinking about it, I was like, this could go a lot of ways.
Yeah. And that's the thing, about being a father figure type role. No two, I guess, mentees and people you're dealing with are the same. So you're going to have to constantly keep finding ways to, reach, motivate, mentor, plan, measure outcomes, so to speak.
And I'm gonna say this also. We may need to do a part 2, because I honestly think that there's things that we didn't uncover.
Okay.
Renaissance Man, like, you got anything on it, bro, before we shut down?
No. Great chat. Like I said, enjoyed discussion with you. Yeah, if part 2 is necessary, can definitely support that as well.
Yeah, because there's things that I'm thinking about literally right now as we're talking about this, and it could kind of, we could basically do another episode on this, right? Because this is a general. It's not just being a father to a biological child. This could be, hey, listen, if you ended up doing it, being a stepfather, right? This could be, like I said, if you're a coach, if you're a school teacher, if you're a business mentor, spiritual pastor, religious guidance. Do you realize how many different kind of venues where one could find themselves in that guidance role in society?
Yeah, no, I absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is that our last thoughts right there?
Well, mine pretty much. Thanks for having me on again. And Renaissance, thank you for actually sparking this discussion.
Yeah, definitely, man. Hey, Renaissance band, big up for this one. This is actually a good one. I'm gonna have to listen to this one later tonight after I cook, or maybe while I'm cooking. I'll go and catch the replay. I need to kind of catch everything that was said.
Yeah, no, like I said,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And yeah, keep me posted.
Okay, I will. I'll touch base with you guys. Maybe we'll just, go ahead and spark this up again. We'll go back to our weekly weekend type of thing, JB. Maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. And Ren, hey, dude, if you got more to put on it, man, please hit us up, hit me up, let me know.
Yep. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. All right. So listen, y'all, we're gonna go ahead and shut it down. We're gonna get dinner together. Wait a minute. Hold on one second. This reigning woman says, my god sister and husband recently bought a cleaners and are raising their son in entrepreneurship. God damn, that is what I'm talking about. I'm going to buy that book for him for his birthday next month. Thank you. It's perfect. At Rael. Shout outs to Rael for putting Miss Reigning Woman up on game. And shout out to Miss Reigning Woman for going to get that book to give it to him. Because I'm going to keep it real, Miss Reigning Woman. I mean, I'm taking the same approach with my daughter. Right? Like the stuff I do is kind of entrepreneurial in spirit. And it has to be put in some sort of trust to be moved on to her, and I don't, we know we all have an inevitable end to our time here. So these things have to be secured, right? And what your god sister and husband are doing, that's literally them taking the initiative to secure that for him. So that's dope, and I'm glad you're gonna buy that book, Miss Reigning Woman. I really do. I'm glad you're gonna do that. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and shut down. If you guys haven't, please like the video. If you do like it, we're not gonna beat you over the head if you don't. But if you do like it, thank you, Miss Reigning Woman. I'll touch base with you. We got to catch up. It's been a minute. We got to catch up. Yeah, good stuff. I'm glad you are. Yeah, and let's catch up soon. Real soon. But yeah, if you like the video, please like it. Share it if you like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.
Peace.